in 3 dies that take a straight wall case. Obviously I've got the 4570 over here, which is like I say, the predecessor to the 450 Marlin. It's the old style that goes back to the old 4570 government trapdoor gun. It has an expander, a seater, and the sizing die, same way as the 450 Marlin. The 3057, these are pistol dies, and they have the same thing because, again, it's a straight-walled case. Over here in the leaves, we have 3 dies, but much like the Redding dies I showed you earlier, that we have a neck sizing die full length, that's what we have over here in the leaves. So the point I'm trying to get to, and I hope it makes sense, is 3 die rifles and 3 die pistols are completely different. And sometimes 3 die rifles and 3 die rifles are different, because in this case 3 dies because I got 2 different types of crimping and sizing, resizing of the thing. Neck or full bodied. Neck or full bodied. Here it's because we have to do a full case sizing just like we would a pistol. So what exactly is a collet die? Well, here's one. Here's that Lee 280 that I pulled out. See, we have the head portion of it. We have it defined as a 7mm. We have this portion, which is the mandrel. This is the one that I had taken apart because it scratched so bad trying to reform virgin brass. And inside we have the collet. And you see how this is split through the collet itself? That's to allow it to be compressed. Well, when you have this portion of the die, it's shaped such that this tapered piece fits into it, and as you ram it down, this drives this collet into this upper piece, which then squeezes against the mandrel. So that's one reason why you don't have to necessarily grease it, although probably if you're scratching your mandrel as easily as this nickel plated brass did on this Lee die, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Sometimes it helps if you know the history of your cartridge. Here I have a Lee 2-die set for the 7mm 08. It has the bullet seating die, and it has a collet neck sizing die. It doesn't do the full piece of brass. And that's fine for if you're just going to shoot a bolt action rifle, but if you ever change rifles or something like that, the body may be stretched out a little different for your particular chamber of gun. I do happen to have a 308 set of dies. This happens to be a full-length body die and a bullet seating die. Now, the truth is, the 7mm 08 is nothing more than a 7mm version of the 308. So this particular die set has a full body die being bigger in diameter. My 7mm neck will fit up in the die. The shoulder is the same position, same dimension. The body is the same dimension. So I can use this 308 die to size this body, size and position the shoulder, and then use this set to actually do the neck crimping. Kind of unusual, isn't it? Now I'm sure you'll want to get one of these before it's over. This is a stuck case remover tool set, and it's composed of a drill, a tap, and a shell holder, special shell holder base. Now when you stick a case in a die, they're jammed up inside there together. So you take this drill and you drill out the primer hole that doesn't have a primer in it. You then tap into it with this, which allows this special shell holder to screw up in it. And you'll notice that, see, the shell holder will fit through your press. So you put the whole die back in the press, and then you're able to catch this little guy right here into your shell holder, just like it was if it was any other shell holder. And when you operate the lever, See, now we're in up position, we would pull it down, and that pulls the brass, it extracts the brass out of the die. Well, what are some of the other handy little gadgets? I've already shown you this. This is the Hornady Collet bullet puller, and it works with the press. So you would put your finalized bullet cartridge up here with the ram in this position. You lay this over, which squeezes the bullet, and then you just kind of use it and pull that ram back down, and it pulls the case out and doesn't spill any powder. So it's a pretty neat little thing. It requires, as I said, different collets to go for different diameters. But now here is another little handy gauge. This is a Wilson gauge. It's a full length check for your brass. See, I've got a spent piece in here. And what this does is this guarantees I fit Sammy's specs. What this will do if the shoulder position is off, you see it's not flat. It's perfectly smooth and flat. This brass is perfectly, so my shoulder's in the right direction. If I've worked the case too much and it's long, I'm going to have it come out this side too. And you can file against this. So if you needed to trim your 270, you use this little solid piece of steel that's been custom tapered and made as it should be for this caliber, and you have a perfect fitting piece of brass. And some of the other miscellaneous tools you may or may not need. This is called a flash hole tool. And it's just basically a little flat screwdriver looking piece at the end, and you just use to scrape out the primer hole after you deprime the case. If you got a lot of black stuff, a lot of gunk building up in it, and your primers don't seat well, and they need to seat well for them to go off, this is what does that. What happens if you don't get your primer seated well is inside the center of the primer internally is this little triangle, this little three-legged piece like a tripod that fits in the center of the primer. And when it pops, when you hit it with a pin, you're actually pinching that material between that piece called an anvil and the cup that's around it. So if you don't have the cup fully seated into the brass, sometimes the whole thing moves when it gets hit with the firing pin. It just goes pop, moves like this, and you don't get compression between the anvil and the cup, and it won't go boom. Now, here's a tool. It's basically just something that will hold a bore brush, but you can use this to go in and out of your necks, your fired brass, to smooth that out in case you got any little bit of burr or ash or gunk or trace. These little guys, various little tools. This is the 450, 4570 length gauge, and what you do is this fits into the flashed, burnt, deprimed hole of the case, and then this actually cuts at this level, and this sets the depth to which you can go in the case, and you turn it around and then you recheck it with your caliper, and it tells you when you've got your stuff trimmed properly. Here's another one. That's a 4570. Let's see, this one, what does it say it is? I don't know, can't read it. What does it say? 7 by 57. 7 by 57. It works the same way. This is the length. It bottoms out in the hole. You turn it up here and it cuts it. Here's one. This is a little bit of a flaring and deburring tool. This size kind of cuts little, makes like little baby flares, although it's actually not flared. It just kind of takes a little 45-degree edge off of the thin brass, and this side up here takes any outside burrs off. So this takes inside burrs, outside burrs.